Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TriVersity Talk. I am Stephen Bloomer-Teague.
And I am Wendy Stewart Kaplan, and we are so happy to be here with you Sunday night at 7 o'clock.
Absolutely. We love it here. It's not as fun when I don't get to sit next to my Wendy, but I do.
And I like we're together, right? We're festive.
I know. When we got our Christmas lights on, we do what we can. But, you know, we're here on the YouTubes and the Facebook. So if you're here with us, why don't you give us a like, a subscribe, a thumbs up, or anything you can do to help promote this video and promote us, because that allows us to reach out even further. And I cannot wait to reach out about our next guest.
I am so excited about our next guest. But before we announce this amazing woman, we have a couple of announcements to make ourselves.
All righty. Well, yes. Of course, one of our biggies is this week on Friday, December the 18th at 7 p.m. We are having a TriVersity holiday hurrah. This will be fun too. You know, it's not the hurrah we normally have. You know, normally every year we do like a holiday dinner and what do you do?
Virtual hurrah. You know, we're grateful to have our virtual hurrahs this year. Now, if you'd like to come, we need a little email from you sent to
right here, Stephen Teague at TriVersityCenter.org. But you can also info@TriVersityCenter.org.
Cool.
If you're on Facebook, private message TriVersity. Any way you get in touch with me, I will see to it that you get that link and you can join us on Friday. We have lots of great entertainment. Miss Anita Lay, TriVersity's Got Talent finalist Cookie Dough, TriVersity's Got Talent winners Liv Zinn and Eric Krieg, not to mention TriVersity Talk guests Ike Avelli and Jay McBride.
How cool.
Great.
And the TriVersity Talkers, Stephen Bloomer-Teague and Wendy Stewart Kaplan.
Absolutely. I mean, the most important guests of all.
Of course. So, don't forget to subscribe to our TriVersity channel. It's a matter of just smashing the button. And without further ado, I would like to welcome with open arms tonight, Cindy Stine. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
I love when that happens. It's like magic, Cindy. You just like, I love the way that happens. Yes, I believe in Oz.
Yes.
Thank you for being here tonight, Cindy. This is such a treat. I have, and Stephen, I know, shares this with me, so much respect and admiration for you. And I want to share with our audience, and I'm not going to date you, but 40 years of advocacy from this woman, which is just unbelievable. She talks the talk. She walks the walk. She is the real deal.
Absolutely. And I'm going to build off of that for a little bit. You know, not only 40 years of advocacy, but TriVersity was founded in 2009, and Cindy has been there from the get-go. And not only was she on the board, she then became vice president, then president. Our organization would not be where it is today without her. I mean, Cindy, it really stunk because, you know, we were going to have prom, and this was going to be my opportunity to force you onto the stage and say thank you. And I didn't get my chance. I will next year. But in the meantime, if we are on a public platform, I do just want to say on behalf of TriVersity and myself, thank you so much for all you've done for us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. And in a way, we've got you on the stage tonight. Isn't that true?
Yes. Before we continue, I want to say that, you know, when we started TriVersity, the Upper Delaware GLBT, it was a big labor of love. And now that I see it, I my hat's off. Congratulations, Stephen. I am so proud of what you have done this year. 2020 has been crazy for all of us. And where you have taken this as the executive director, I am so very proud of you. And thank you for keeping our mission and what we envisioned, what we wanted. And so, you know, thank you, Wendy, thank you. And thank everybody on the board, because you kept it going and with such class. So thank you.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, really. So take us to the very beginning. Take us to where it all started for Cindy Stine.
Well, where it started, it's I've lived a very unusual life, like you talk about Murphy's Law. I am Murphy. Um, but where it started is as a child. Basically, I am a survivor of child sexual abuse, and at the age of 18 was raped. And I say that calmly because I've worked so hard on my issues for so many years. But as a child, there was no such thing as a crisis center. There was no such thing as anybody talking about anything like this. Nobody ever talked about it. So I made a promise to that little girl that one day I will be her advocate. But I didn't know the name advocate, but I knew that one day I would be her voice. And I got that opportunity years later. So that's where it all began, to know that you can never look the other way. And I would never look the other way. When someone calls for help or I see injustice, you have to say something. You can't walk away. You can't look the other way. You can't make excuses. And I did that my whole life. And I lost a lot of friends and I gained a lot of friends because that's who I am. And I really, again, it took me a long time to use my voice. I was super shy, believe it or not, really shy, to the point where I used to get sick to my stomach wanting to, go out and talk. I grew up in a very close-knit family with my sisters and my mom and my aunt and my grandma. And we used to perform all over the place. We had a singing group.
I never knew that about you. That's great.
Yeah, we had a singing group. And, we just, again, I'm the youngest out of all of them. And I was the one that always fought the most. When I saw something, I would stop and say something. And my, family, come on, you gotta go. You can't say that. But I can say that. Exactly. Exactly. So that's where, again, as a child, seeing that and not having a voice, I didn't understand what that meant, but that's where I went with it. And so as I got older, I worked for a corporation, and I worked in the city, and I worked for 23 years there. Wow. And I was a financial analyst. But before that, in the 80s, was very involved in the AIDS movement, when AIDS came out. And so many of my friends, as Wendy, I hear you talk about it, and I say that's my life.
I'm with the same
so much, from my first friend, Jim, in Rochester, New York, when he passed away, and they talked about this horrible disease and the way they described it, to 1996, when this young man, Jose, who worked for me when I worked at the company at Kodak. And he was like a son to me, even though he was not much younger than me. The way he was treated in 1996 was that when he got really sick, and he never told me he had HIV or AIDS. He never told me that, but I knew it. But I knew that when he was ready, he would tell me. And one day I was called down to the nurse's office because Kodak, we had like 15 floors at 1133 Avenue of the Americas. So we had a lot of floors there. And when I was called in there, the police showed up, and he was really, really sick. And it happened to be a bunch of shootouts that day in the city, and there was no ambulances. So they had to call the police to get him to the hospital. He was running a high fever. He was sweating. And I'll never forget what the police did. They didn't have their gloves, so they would not take him. And they said to me, he has AIDS. And I said, of course I know. And I saw Jose's face. And they would not take him. They would not get an ambulance. So I ran out like a crazy lady with a wheelchair, yelling up and down the streets. I need I need a taxi. I need this. I need that. Running around, and got him in the cab. And I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, "I'm so sorry." And it was seeing him over the course of 3 months dying. I made him a promise, like I made myself a promise, that I will get involved in HIV. I got myself involved in the GMHC, and they helped me tremendously, helping him. And so I promised him some way, shape, or form, I will always be involved, and I will do something, and I will have his voice be heard through my voice. So not only as my child voice for sexual abuse, this was for HIV and AIDS, and it was more so AIDS because they really didn't call it HIV back then.
Right. They did call it AIDS. So you would say that this experience with Jose was pivotal. And
very much so. And the thing is that it was the day he passed away. He went into when he went into the hospital, I took him to the hospital, the emergency room. And in that emergency room, they took him on a floor where it was like all white, all white, like very, just, I don't know the right word, but it was empty, completely empty. And it was only him and I in there. We were the only two. And it was a ward, that was just the two of us. So, of course, me, when I get nervous, I tell jokes. I have to. And so I was telling him jokes and wheeling him down and pushing him through the hallways, and a week later he died. But he died, I couldn't get to the hospital, and he left a message on my machine.
Wow. And
then his mother called me, and I'll never forgive I did forgive myself. For a while I didn't, because I told him I'd be there for him, and I couldn't get there. I was in Jersey. But yeah, it did leave it left all my friends who has gone left a mark on my heart. But Jose, he made me want to be a better person and do more.
Well,
than anybody.
That's exactly what he would have wanted for you to do, and you certainly have lived up to his memory and his expectations. So emotionally in that time, that was a very emotional time for a lot of us. Yes. I remember feeling just such unbelievable anger, that has resurfaced, by the way, during this time. So how did you as an advocate and an activist take that anger, right? Have you used it and turned it into such positive acts as you have? Well,
it was years after, like the way I handled Jose and AIDS and HIV is that I contributed my time. All the AIDS walkathons and the dance-a-thons, at the Javits Center, I'll never forget those dance-a-thons that were crazy, and 100 people doing the electric slide, but that's how I did it in the beginning for him, because I was focused more on domestic violence and sexual abuse. And so I put all my energy, because I needed to also acknowledge that young person in me, that child that I said I would do something. So when I moved up here, I moved up here from New Jersey and New York, and we came up here, my husband and I came up here because we just wanted a quieter life. Quieter life. Didn't get
wow, right?
And I remember, reading about just wanting to say, where can I go? What can I do? And Survivors Resources, which is also known as Safe Haven, they were having volunteer classes. So I took the volunteer class, and right off the bat, I started training. I did the training classes with Peggy Emanuel and Kathy Allen, the three of us, and we did it till we all left. But that's where my passion, that's where my anger, I channeled that into working with young people. I work with, women and men, but mostly with the young children, with the school, and I had a group that I created with the PCAR, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, RYOT, which is Rallying Youth Organizers Together Against Rape and All Forms of Abuse. And that's where I channeled everything. I met the most unbelievable young people from 6th grade to 9th grade to 12th grade to college, that I saw such potential in. And I took these young people, and some young ones that were survivors, some just wanted to make a difference, from all different walks. And we did sociodramas, and sociodrama is interactive theater, where we started small and we ended up doing all over the place, and educated so many, and helped change laws with legislators. It was a wonderful tool. And to create and to watch these young people turn into advocates and activists and see where they're going now is just the reward of unbelievable. Young people that you work with that didn't like you, didn't like me. They were in my groups and they couldn't stand me, and they would tear into me, and then I would walk away and come back, and ended up being people that I admire, and I adore, and I love, and got to know the parents. So if you're working with young people, you really need to get to know the parents, and it was just working with the coalitions, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape or Domestic Violence, because I'm a survivor also with domestic violence. My first husband was extremely abusive. And so it was like, all these issues, I put myself into it. And that's where my passion went to change the laws, to bring awareness, to bring knowledge, to talk about it, to get people to talk about it without any shame or embarrassment. And then during this whole thing, worked with the Rainbow Youth. There was a group, the Rainbow Youth, with the LGBT, and we started small with that. It was a small group that we did in Monroe and Pike County, and that's where I met Patty. Well, actually, I met Patty before, and then introduced Patty to Rainbow Youth. Patty, who was the mother of
started
Delaware
GLBT, right?
And so Rainbow Youth, we used to do support groups together. We used to do groups together, and we used to use any room that we could find. Any room. We used a closet. And we'd go in the closet, a bigger closet, but we would have 2 or 3 young people. And that's where we would sit and play games and talk and do all these things. And then there's 4 of us.
You brought up something I wanted to ask you about, the young people initially, because this is something that needs to get out there just in the world. They initially rejected you. How did you keep going to get their acceptance? How did you use the sociodramas? When I came on board the Upper Delaware GLBT, I know sociodrama was a very big thing. Can you elaborate on what sociodrama did and how you used that to gain the trust of the kids?
Oh, sure. The ones that were in my group, we had groups at school, and that, one of my dearest friends, Louisa Weinstein, who passed away. A year ago, a few days ago, who was just my partner in crime. We did groups at school. And so we got to know a lot of the young kids. For me, when I did my first group, it was called Anger Management. And this young person thought I was going in for healthy relationships. So I'm talking about anger management. She ripped me up and down and told me off. And I went back to the office. I said, I'm not doing this. And then I thought about it, and I thought, you always have to remember what it was like being a young person. As old as you get, you can't forget your roots. You can't forget how you felt at that time. And that's where I always go with. I always go with remembering what it felt like. So I'd go back and reintroduce myself until we start talking. And then we started building rapport and started talking. With sociodrama, when I walk into a classroom and I would do a mini sociodrama, you would get some of the students with the chewing of the gum and, she doesn't know anything, she's old and blah, blah, blah. And those are the ones I love, because those are the challenge, because they're hiding something or they're angry at something. And so you start talking to them. And then when they start to hear the story. Sociodrama is interactive theater. Yeah. It's creating a story. It's, you don't ever tell your story, but it's creating a bunch of stories about real life, and you talk to the audience, and it's a play, like a play with the audience being part of the play. You bring it, as me as a facilitator, I would bring them into the audience into the characters. They would become a character. And then what it shows is young people and older people would see it through the eyes of the victim, through the eyes of the survivor. And they wouldn't, and if they were a survivor and if they were a victim, it wasn't where it was threatening that they have to share their story. They could live with it and ask questions, but they don't have to identify anything. We did one in Sussex County on LGBT, and it was the most powerful one that we've ever done before. And it was about a young girl, Jenny, coming out to her friends. And it was really true to life. And I had, the group that we had, we work a lot together because you have to work together because there's times when something's going to trigger somebody. You have to say, okay, if something's triggering you, you have to notice that body language and then you have to jump in and do something different. There's all different tricks.
Did you ever have an experience like that where you were doing one of these sociodramas and one of the kids just completely flipped out? I mean, this is digging down real deep.
Well, right, because we have a check-in, a check-out.
Got it.
You have to check in, you have to check out, and that's decompressing. You need to do that. But in the middle, if they did it in the middle, we always had somebody in the back that would be able to counsel them or take care of them. And the way I would get them off the stage is either, and most of the time gently, but making it part of the scene and saying, you know what, I had enough of you. Just get out of here now, and they could walk off. If somebody's phone went off, you make it part of the play as well, because, teens don't want to shut their phones off. But, but this particular one was about the bully and how this young lady was bullied and how she didn't come out to her family, but the school called up and told her mother and father. And when her father found out, he went crazy on her, but he went crazy on the mother. And to show that there was domestic violence in the household too. So it's educating guidance counselors is like, if a student is telling you they're not out, that's not your job to out them. So that's what the whole storyline was. And it was so effective that the audience stood up, every single one stood up and went into line to tell off the bullies. And it was their opportunity because they never got that opportunity to do that. And so it's so powerful. It's like we have something called thoughts in the head, and thoughts in the head is like you bring up people on stage and you say, you're the character now. What do you think is going on in their mind? And they go around in a circle and they say all these things, and it's like boom, 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 and then you yell and then stop. But it's so effective because it's you're seeing something through somebody else's lens.
Yes.
And then this older woman who had to be around 80 something years old, she came on the stage and she asked if we would do her story. She was domestic violence and she wanted her story. But these are the ways that we contribute. These are the ways that RYOT went really. We got so many different awards. We got so many different places that we went to, performed in Washington. And one of the best places is the Library, Library of Congress.
The Library of Congress. You guys performed in the Library of Congress.
That room. And mind you, this furniture is very, very old.
Yeah.
And we were dying because we were rearranging it. Like I went and talked to somebody, and then when I came back, the teens all rearranged. Oh my God.
Beauty of teens.
Where's furniture? But it was unbelievable. And that was for victims' rights. And that was to show, for sexual assault, if you're not ready to, it was like when you weren't ready to report it, but you wanted a protection from abuse, you couldn't get it until you got it reported. And victims aren't ready until they're ready. So that was showing the legislators that you have to wait till the victim is ready. We even had the district attorney doing a sociodrama with him, showing how it feels to be interviewed. So we went all over the place. We did mother groups and everything.
So Cindy, sociodrama, that was very much a pioneering on your end. Where did you come up with that idea?
Well, when we first started RYOT, PCAR, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, we had three facilitators, one from Monroe, one from Washington, D.C., and myself. And they wanted to do a training for us on sociodrama. So the ones that trained us is actually the one that trained us, Dr. Tedesco. She did all the sociodrama for 9/11 officers, and she that's how she did through sociodrama. So we were trained on it. It was a whole weekend. It was like actually 4-day weekend where we stayed in a hotel, and that's all we did was sociodramas, one after the other after the other.
Very intense. That is so emotionally intense.
Yes. And I mean, by the end of those 4 days, everybody, we all knew each other inside and out because it was you eat, breathe. That's what RYOT is all about. You eat, you breathe it. If you were in RYOT, what was very important is that you have to, talk the talk and walk the walk. You can't be on it and then go out there and do something wrong. Meaning, you can't say one thing
right
and then do another. So it was such a commitment and such an unbelievable group of people. Bailey is one of my RYOT members,
right.
and Bailey was one of our, we did the groups together at P3, Morgan, is another one of my RYOT members. So
I was going to say, I know you're still in touch with all of them. That's really a credit to you and such incredible people. I mean, Bailey, when we were the Upper Delaware GLBT, she was in charge of the kids. When we did Pride, Bailey, held everybody together. She made sure everybody was accountable. She was unbelievable. She was way old beyond her years.
We did one for the school for the Harrisburg. I forgot the name of the production, but it was only 900 people we were going to do it in front of. So
only
so I had to tell everybody, listen, if you don't want to do it, you got to let me know.
Oh, really?
And girl who couldn't talk in front of one person, let alone 900, she said she was going to try. And she would get sick before every performance, and we took the school bus to Harrisburg, and there was all teachers and it was teachers, principals, lawyers, police officers, everybody. And we did a major sociodrama, and it was unbelievable. The young lady that couldn't talk, couldn't shut up.
Isn't that amazing?
Really very empowering for them as well.
Incredible.
So many times when we performed, the audience after the show would track down the students to talk to them because they learned so much from the students. Parents, we did a lot of parent programs because it was, how do I talk to my teen? What better way talking to your teen than to a teen? So it was really wonderful. And they just, it was just a wonderful, just everything about it was wonderful.
Cindy, how do you deal with parents? You've dealt with so many teens. How do you deal with parents that are just resistant to what you're trying to bring to the party? Parents that you're trying to get to listen to what you have to say?
Getting them involved, as uncomfortable as it may be, getting them involved. Talking to them constantly and letting them know that, I'm their friend as well. But my first allegiance is to, that if they got them in contact with me, please don't ask me for anything, sort of setting boundaries. You have to set boundaries, big time, because you want the trust of the parent and you want the trust of the young person, right. So get them involved, get them to come to the performances, let them see what they're doing. And let them see the audience and how the reaction is. We did a performance on victims' rights, and our RYOT members got up there, and Michelle Z.
Of course,
there and with Lexi and with another person, and they got up and they sang.
Oh my gosh!
And CNN was, all the major television. This was a real good story. This is when Lizzie, my daughter, was really young. And she was very active.
Also an advocate, I have to add. She's just
she came all the way with us. She came with us everywhere. So what happened was, she was young, and my husband was with me, and he had to keep an eye on her because we were on stage, all of us, with signs and like signs and everything, because we were fighting for victims' rights. And so we were all there, and Lizzie came on stage with us, which was good. And all of a sudden she starts to walk. Now she was 7 years old, and she starts to walk around on the stage. And it's like trying to not let anybody see us, but trying to get her attention, or trying to get Jim's attention to get this child, because she's starting to say hello to everybody on stage. And then pictures that we have with Ryan, you see our expressions on our face. And then as she's walking and she's tripping over all the wiring, and I could just see all the cameras are going to fall down. So what I ended up doing is that she advocated, and she went to each table and handed all brochures out. And that's how she started. Wow. She just, she is a strong advocate, and that's how she did it. And that day we actually did a sociodrama for young kids that have been in detention homes.
Wow.
And that was the first time they allowed an adult, me, in a room. They usually let only young people in the room. So RYOT touched upon everything. But going with your question with the parents is getting them involved, letting them know what's happening, to the point where I'm not breaking any confidentiality, which is really important. If somebody said to me, I would want you to see my child, I always made sure that they knew that don't ask me. But if something you should know. So that was the building the trust. When Jim was in the hospital one time, I was in the hospital in the emergency room with him, and a woman came in, and I sort of recognized her, but I didn't say anything. And she kept on coming in and looking at me. And she finally said, you worked at the school, right? And I said, yes. She said, Miss Stine, right? And I said, yes. She said, thank you. And I said, you're welcome. Her son was so bullied in school. He came out in, it was eighth grade. I think it was eighth grade, seventh grade he came out, and he was tormented. And the school really didn't do anything about it. And when I said to him, well, we're going to do something about it, he said, no, Miss Stine, it's okay. I'm used to it. Just by saying I'm used to it. Now, the things they said about him, they said to him, zero tolerance with that. And so I brought it to the principal, and I brought it to the vice principal, and I demanded something to be done. At the end, I gave him a stuffed animal, and she wanted to tell me that he was in his second year in college. He had a beautiful boyfriend, and he was living his life. And that's what you want to. That's what you want to hear. That's what you want to hear. Actually, what we did at the school board is that we did a sociodrama for the school board, and I got some of the principals involved because we wanted RYOT in the schools. We wanted to be in the schools, and the only way to do that is to show them what we got. And that's when they said, let's RYOT. But also, there's three of us, and plus myself, we had a meeting with all the young people in this one small room. And I invited students from Stroudsburg, Scranton, all over to talk about the GSA. And they did not want the GSA at the high school. And Mr. Burns, who was the GSA instructor, who, Stephen, you would just adore him.
Oh, yeah.
He was wonderful. And the four of us put together a presentation to the superintendent to have a GSA. And it was a wonderful presentation. And after we did it, the students did it. And that's where we got the first GSA into that school. And some of our RYOT members were the facilitators. And we all went in there. I got Sean Stroop, made sure that he was part of it and tell the history, and it really was, when you use your voice, when you use what you have and your influence on, even if it's a tiny bit of influence, you push it and you get and you teach others how to use their voice.
So Cindy, is sociodrama still relevant today?
Big time. Yes.
And therapists.
I would love to do sociodrama once we're out of this pandemic. I would love to show you how to do it. I think that it would be right up your alley, Stephen. I think that you would grab right into it.
Most certainly dramatic. There's no.
Well, not that it's dramatic, but I think that you know what I mean. I love sociodrama, and I would love to teach it and train you guys.
I would love to learn. I mean, I've always been so fascinated by the program, and I mean, and hearing more about it tonight, it's just been really great to learn.
Yes,
it's very powerful.
It's groundbreaking.
So Cindy, I mean, so you have the successes with RYOT and then Rainbow Youth, and that led to your connection with Patty Tomaszewski. So what brought the Upper Delaware GLBT Center into formation?
It's funny. I always laugh at it, and I hope Patty remembers this. I was working at Safe Haven, and Patty knew that I was working with young kids that were coming out. And I always made a mention that I need to do another group. I need to do something because there's too many, and we need to educate the schools. And it was just, there was so much, and then Patty, there's so much, there was nothing for anybody to do in our town or anything. So Patty called me up one day and said, meet me in the driveway of your parking lot of my office.
That's so Patty.
Come on out. And she said to me, I got such a deal for you. I got to talk to you. And she talked to me and said, this is my idea. Right. And it came from Cindy Lauper, on True Colors.
True Colors, yeah, of course.
And we started talking. She said, would you be interested? And I said, of course I would be interested, because Patty and I did some support groups together. Patty and I had the similar backgrounds, and we had the passion, and it was just a fit. And so then she got others to get interested in it, and we had a barbecue at Sheila's house. And that's when we started saying, this is what we need to do. And our first meeting was at the Muir House. That was our first board meeting, was at the Muir House, which is no longer there. It's the daycare center now. But that's where we started. And then Patty and I sat in the diner, and we sat there for like 3 hours going over creating a business plan and what we would like to do. And it was watching it come to fruition, like watching it come and be what it was. Again, we didn't have an office, so we worked in.
There was no center, Stephen. No center, nothing. I mean,
that's how we worked. I mean, Lori Ann at the forklift. She gave us our space. We did it in. We used it in after hours. We did it on the porch. Anywhere we could find space, we did. And Kerry and Chris. I'm bringing them in and the P3 groups, we just kept on growing and growing and growing. And I'll say it again. I said it in the beginning, Stephen, I am just so proud of where you're taking this. And I know that Patty and Chris and Kerry were all extremely excited, because that was our vision as well. And Wendy, this was our vision. And it's in good hands.
One of the things that changed so much, though, and for Stephen, we had, like, when I came on board in the very beginning, it was kids. It was all about the kids, and P3, which was, what was it, Pizza Patty, and what was the third P?
People promoting pride, but anytime you bring food.
Yeah, right.
Pizza. And kids will come with pizza.
Right, and there were just so many kids, and we had the GSA, of course, at the high school at that time, and then we started doing Pride in New York and bringing the kids in for that. So much of the advocacy was done around the kids. What's changed, Stephen, now is it's, we're doing so much more with adults now.
Yeah. But I will say, and then I'll circle back to a question I have, is to say, it's time to get back to our roots a little bit too, pursuing more programs for seniors. We took an upcoming survey, and that definitely seems where we should start putting some of our attention, but getting it back to youth is extremely important.
Yes.
So in case no one knows, this past weekend on Netflix, a new musical in movie form was released called The Prom. And it was ultimately was an all-inclusive prom. And all I could think was, well, we've been doing all-inclusive proms for a very long time. So Cindy, tell us more about how the Prom for All Ages came about.
Well, it was one day, Patty talked about she wanted a prom that included everybody, all inclusive, everybody. And we talked about it. And so we planned it. And it was going to be in New Jersey. And I forgot what happened, and it just never happened. It never happened. So Kerry and Chris knew that this was a vision of Patty's, and they made it happen. 8 years ago, was it? 8 years ago?
Yeah, that was our first prom. Was 8 years ago.
And it was unbelievable. It was the most unbelievable feeling in the world. Like, there's some things that have changed my life, and that's one of them, to the point where when we went in there and you saw people dressed to die for, dressed in jeans, You saw old and young.
Everybody
was there, and everybody was accepted. There was no judging. There was no whispering. There was so much love in this room, and it was what Patty envisioned. That's what her envision is. And Kerry and Chris brought it home. They really brought it home.
I think that's it's very telling in terms of why you need a big, broad volunteer network, because sometimes someone can have a vision, but it requires someone else who can give you that guidance to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic, he had such a vision with his eyes, you know, and his decorations and how he got so creative, you know, and he always brought what?
The whole community just ended up jumping in and involved.
To see somebody at the age of 86 years old, 80,
there was someone in the prom. Yeah.
To come to the prom, to see, you know, to see parents coming with their children.
Beautiful.
They wanted to see, you know, and for the children, for the young people, it was the first time that they were ever introduced to somebody, other transgenders, adults who they could relate to, who they could say, oh my God, I could take a picture, and then we did
take the picture, right? We put them in Rainbow Ending, the film.
Yes.
For me, the moment, Melissa coming with her family.
Yes.
And coming out to her son and daughter in the car.
Oh my gosh! And then they come to the prom.
On the way to the prom. I mean, these are unbelievable. They're unbelievable stories. They really are.
They are everything. Everything that we talk about and visualize.
Yes,
it's more. It's those. I'm getting the goosebumps because it really is. It was magnificent, and if you didn't get emotional, you know, you look at it and you look around, and it was just the most beautiful thing to see everybody up there dancing, everybody dancing with each other. You know, it was just a beautiful event. And that's what the prom, you know, so we had the prom way before they're talking about the prom. You know, and we even tried to bring, you know, Ellen, that young boy to prom. Remember, we did all these videos, and Alan had to, you know, shoot us with all these videos, and we never got chosen, but doesn't matter. We had fun anyhow. We had a great time. So I think my memories of the prom is in rooms with Alan shooting somebody, you know, with their interview. Right. And me holding the lights and then, you know, I mean, it's like listening to the music, and he goes, no, you can't go anywhere. You got to listen, you know, but the way he allowed, you know, the interviews, and it was so empowering. It is. And we have, thank God, we have a historical. It's great, Stephen, that you brought up prom being on Netflix, because we were groundbreaking. And in Rainbow Ending, we do have a historical record. It's important to have these archives.
So let's talk about it. People might not know. What is Rainbow Ending?
So Rainbow Ending, and thank you, Cindy Stine produced the film Rainbow Ending. It was, again, a dream of Patty's, and we had started recording our events. We started recording our picnic, Pride, the prom, and getting people to talk about what this meant to them. And then ultimately putting it into a film called Rainbow Ending, which beautifully combined both the visuals and the stills. And, you know, the big coup for all of us was getting it chosen by the Chelsea Film Festival in New York. And that was incredible. But one of the best things for me was, like, our people coming, they schlepped into New York to see the movie, and darn, Melissa Laboni, who we used her picture to advertise the film, she went into the wrong theater the day of the. I remember reading about that, but
that's a mess. Oh my God.
It was so crazy, and she missed. I said, you missed your own screening, but the fact of the matter is, the film is out there. It exists. We want to get it out there more. It's our record. It's our history of TriVersity. Yes. And all of us, it's our gift to Milford.
I'll never forget our first Pride parade.
Oh my God. You
Oh
and
my God, I only watched it on TV. I was never, you were there. But I got the best seat because I always got the car, as the waiver.
Cindy always got to do the Miss America way.
Yes. And now I passed it on to Lizzie, who, she loves the organization, and that does me good. And then with all of that, working with the LGBTQ, working with, sexual assault and domestic violence, and my husband who had Parkinson's, working and starting a 501c3 for Parkinson's, the 5K, which I believe it was something like 60,000+ that we donated to the Michael J. Fox,
Right.
Getting involved and making a difference. If something, my philosophy is if you see something, you have to make the difference. You can't wait for someone else to. And that's what we did. We created profit center, nonprofits, 501c3s. That brings me to the Sero Project.
Of course.
Now the Sero Project, and I'm going to just read what our mission statement is because we've changed it and I didn't memorize it. I'm very sorry.
I'm going to throw the website up. There we
But
go.
it's Sero centers people living with HIV, leadership to end HIV criminalization, mass incarceration, racism, and social injustice by supporting inclusive people living with HIV networks to improve policy outcomes, advance human rights, and promote healing justice. And I am so friggin' proud of this organization and the work we do. And the way I got involved with this, and this is my promise to Jose, and how everything comes together, is that we invited Sean to the center to do a presentation on HIV criminalization. I thought I heard everything about HIV. I thought I knew, mostly everything that I should know. But he was talking about something called HIV criminalization, and I never heard of that. So it was Sean Strube, Robert Settle, and Rhonda, who was with the AIDS Law Center in Philadelphia, who did a presentation on it. Robert was criminalized and was in jail for 6 months for having consensual sex using a condom that the person knew that, he was HIV positive, but it was a form of domestic violence. If you leave me, you're in trouble, And anyhow, it was my first introduction to this something called HIV criminalization. And then after the presentation, Robert, who lived in Louisiana, showed everybody his driver's license. And on his driver's license, right underneath his picture in big bold letters, is sex offender. Oh. Now, if you met Robert, he is the most unbelievable, wonderful human being. And he was working in the courthouse, and his life changed. And if you go on our website, there's a whole story of Robert. But I saw that story, and I was so moved and so touched that I went over to Sean, of course, and first I went to Robert and I said, I know you don't know me, but I'm a hugger and I need to hug you. I need to know that that I need to hug you. And then I said to Sean, listen, I'm not working at the moment. If there's anything I can do, just let me know.
Unbelievable.
The next day, Sean called me, and then that was it.
Wow.
And what he got me involved with was letters of those that are incarcerated for HIV criminalization. And that's how I started with Sero, is to read letters and respond to them and give them referrals, resources. And over the years doing this, you hear stories of those that are incarcerated. And one of the projects that I created was the Holiday Card Project. And that was where I reached out to people across the country, advocates and activists across the country, asking if they would do cards, and we send them to those that are incarcerated. I would give them names, they would send it to me, and then I would send it out to those that are inside. Really? And it wasn't anything that had to do with our mission statement other than human kindness. And that's all it is. It's just showing human kindness, that you don't, that's all that it is. And now we're in our 5th year. Wow. And Elizabeth Taylor's AIDS Foundation is sponsoring it this year, which I'm so thrilled about. They are so wonderful, and they're sponsoring this. And we're, almost done with almost done. I'm getting them all coming in. But it's just, again, HIV should never be a crime.
Absolutely.
Never be a crime. But, more information on our website to learn who we are, what we do. I work with the most unbelievable staff that we've always worked virtual because we're all over the country. And I had the best opportunity in 2018 to go to the AIDS 2018 in Amsterdam. And it was phenomenal. And we were, of course, 2020, it was it was virtual. We also do something called HIV is Not a Crime National Conference Training Academy. And the first year we did it in Grinnell, Iowa.
That's you.
God bless you. And then the second year we did in Alabama, and we do it at a campus so that we're all together, 300 people together. So we eat and you sleep together and you get to know each other, and it's advocates and legislators and all working together to strategically change the laws, and so Grinnell, Alabama, Indiana, and then we were going to have it in 2020 in Ohio, but the pandemic. So then we postponed it to 2021, but we don't know what 2021 is going to be. So now it's going virtual. So we're going to be doing our first virtual National Training Academy, which we're really, really excited about, but it's our first one. And might tap into you, Stephen.
Oh, gosh. Whatever limited resource I can be, I will be. But
it's people from all over the country and the world. We had six countries last time. Also, we're a part of an international group called HIV Justice Worldwide, which is all coalitions from all over the countries, all over the world gathering. And so we do so much, and we're a small group, but we have such partners, so many different partners across the country, so many different advocates. I have been so blessed and so lucky because, when you get to a certain age, you think that's it, you're not going to learn anymore and that's it. Oh, not true. Not true.
It never stops for you. It's amazing.
You never stop. You never stop.
That little girl that didn't have a voice, my God, has a worldwide voice now.
Some people say, could you stop talking, but hey, I can't.
So a question, which I think kind of ties into what we just finished discussing, which is from Samantha Spillane. How are you so resilient? What makes you so strong?
I love life. I love people. And I love that if I can help in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to do it. And I go through this whole process. I'm a processor. I process everything. And I might get mad. I might get, my, I don't know that saying, you big girl panties in it, whatever they call it.
Panties in a bunch, in a twist.
Yeah. But then I process that and I work through it. And I try very, very hard not to hold grudges or hold anything and just look at the problem. And so when I think I'm at my wit's end, I can't, because there's so much to do. Sam, there's so much to do, and Samantha is awesome, and you're just like that. You're resilient, and that's what I say. If there's any bit of hope, you take it and you work with it. And it doesn't mean that every day is a wonderful day and great and this and that, but it's you make it what it is. You have to. And I have really rough days. This pandemic took, through this whole pandemic, my husband passed away. My sister passed away, and it's just been a crazy to navigate everything, but you do what you have to do. And I can't wait to actually hug and to see people and to talk to people. You lose that human contact is so important. But Sam, to answer that question, it's just always knowing that there's hope.
Yep.
And I have wonderful mentors. And one of my strongest mentors is Sean Strube.
Now, because, all of your paths were really near each other in the 80s. Did you know Sean before Milford?
The ironic thing is this, that when I think about it, we were always probably passed each other. I believe that. And Wendy, I probably passed you on the street.
I knew Sean in the 80s. But Stephen really hit on a great thing there.
Yes. And so
the fact that you work for Sean, the fact that that happened. How did that happen?
Sorry.
You know, the fact that you now work for Sero.
It's so surreal to me because I remember when John Lennon died, he died on my birthday.
Oh.
And I was devastated. And I sat in my car and I cried because we were watching, I was listening to, they were playing all his songs. And then I'm in the house and I'm crying my eyes out, saying, I got to get to the Dakota. I got to get to the Dakota. And then this person comes on the screen talking about it. The first person in it, and his name is Sean Strube. It did not register. It did not connect. I did not connect it. And then I knew Sean, you know, when I moved up here, you know, Sean moved, I think 2 years after I moved up here. And then with the hotel and with, you know, just our paths constantly crossed. And then actually it was Lizzie. Sean did an auction for Safe Haven. And Lizzie was 7 years old. And Lizzie, like, if it was my little klutz, you know, you don't give her anything good to hold. And all of a sudden I went out and I come back in and there's Lizzie working with Sean and he's giving her these big things to carry.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to break it. But that's where they bonded. Her and Sean bonded. That was their bond. That was their big bond, and they never lost that bond. So it was through Lizzie that Sean and I got to know each other even more, and through the work that we did. And then my first assignment with Sean was to read his transcript. And here I was on the bed, and this is when I smoked, which I don't smoke anymore, but when I was smoking, drinking, and crying, you know, and then I realized, oh my God, that was Sean Strube. And that's how I connected with, you know, and I've been blessed ever since.
Meant to be, Cindy. It was definitely meant to be.
Yes, and I got Alfie, you know, my grandson. But
well, as we draw near towards the end of our time, Cindy, is there any other plugs you'd like to make about Sero or anything else?
Well, you did put up the Sero website.
I did, and we will do that.
On our website, we are doing our 2021 calendars. And I could put it on. I could put the site on later, but there's a direct link to order calendars. But it is really to sponsor scholarships for those people living with HIV. They sponsor them to go to our events. And to do different, on our website shows a lot of information about Sero, but we are so proud of our calendar because it is all our different partner organizations and some great pictures, really wonderful pictures of advocates and activists.
Fabulous.
Easy for you to say.
Advocates and activists. There we go.
I'm not even trying. I'm just
yeah, but thank you. Again, Sero, we do a lot of great things, and I'm just very proud of the community that I love so dearly. And it's so many different communities. The LGBTQ community will be my family from the time I was a little kid. Yes, and I will always have them in my hearts and be there for them. And Parkinson's will always have my heart. And Sero will always have my heart. And domestic violence and sexual abuse will always have me. So that's what keeps me going. And I have, I hope I have more to do. I hope more time to do things.
Wow.
Very important.
The world needs you, Cindy. You're going to be there for it.
And I need the world. I need the world.
Right. And the world appreciates you, and we appreciate you.
Yes.
And we appreciate all of you for coming here and watching us every week and watching this wonderful interview tonight. This will be our last show for a couple of weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yes, please past the holidays, and
Little holiday, right?
we might have some updates, little update, cutesy things. We'll see what happens in those 2 weeks. But we just want to say, you know, we're grateful to all of you, and we hope to see you at the Holiday Hurrah on Friday, Cindy, you included. But if not, have a very, very happy holidays, and we will see you soon.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holiday.
Good night.
Good night.